Darius Cooper? I see someone who's carving out a role in the past year.
He's done a great job. He was unfortunately was recovering from injury in the spring, but it's been great seeing him out on the grass. He's done a lot of nice things. We love his skill set. He's part of a position group where, kind of like we spoke, I think last press conference. We have a lot of guys that bring a lot of different attributes to the table. We're excited about all of them. For me, not having been here last year was fun. These first week or so of camp to see Coop for the first time in a live setting. He's done a nice job along with the rest of the guys in the group.
What are the benefits in those call-it periods a lot so far? How helpful are they in the play calling aspect for you? Just kind of the urgency of it.
Yeah, it's been massive. It's been massive. Kind of like I spoke before. Going through my process of calling plays on game day, going through our process as a staff in terms of managing the substitutions. We want to make those feel as close to the game as we can within a practice setting. And, so far we've achieved that, and, we'll keep leaning into that today.
On the Wicks, Jalen Hurts described Wicks as someone who's basically beating down the door to kind of improve. How have you seen that?
Yeah, Wicks is a great worker. He's got a ton of talent. He's off to a really good start. I think one of the things I'd like to highlight about really our whole wide receiver group is these guys are blocking in the run game, at a really high level. The effort they're putting in, Wicks is certainly a huge part of that. But as a group, collectively, again, everybody is attacking each day, ready to get better. And when Jalen says that about Wicks, that's absolutely true. And really, I think it applies to the group as a whole. You notice after practice, guys are out here staying. Yesterday post practice. Hollywood's running routes for Jalen. If Coop running routes, everybody's on the jugs. It's something that Nick has preached, since day one of how do you find the extra time to, perfect your craft. And that position group and Tay are certainly the embodiment of that.
What's your stance on the touch push?
It's going to be a part of what we do. It's been an extremely effective play here. We're going to lean into that. And it's it's something that, this organization has executed at a high level. So along with many other elements to our offense, certainly, it's something that will be a part of it.
How do you go about coaching a young quarterback like Cole, who hasn't been afraid to let it rip a little bit?
Yeah, he's done a really nice job. I think, obviously there's been a couple days where got to protect the football a little bit better, but I'm very, very happy with where Cole's at in his development. There's kind of some growing pains to any young quarterback. This is his first exposure to NFL football and NFL defenses, and with that, you take some bumps and bruises along the way, but he's made tremendous improvement in terms of timing, rhythm, accuracy. I mean, he's really, really sharp, which doesn't always maybe show to you guys on the practice field, but he's super engaged at practice, understands the play calls, understands the footwork, and the challenge for him is, you don't get as many reps as you might like, but he's doing everything he can post-practice in the meeting to maximize his opportunity. And, I think day by day, as you guys have seen, he's gotten better and better with that.
On that note, what's your philosophy when it comes to quarterbacks of trying throws and practices maybe you wouldn't try in the game versus practicing how you want them to play?
Yeah, for me, really, regardless of position, you want to treat every practice as if it were a game. You want to try to take yourself through a game day process in terms of execution, in terms of substituting from the sideline. So I don't really subscribe to we're going to treat practice with a different level of aggression. I think you want to, as best you can, create a game day type mindset for each player and each position group, quarterback or otherwise, within a practice setting.
So we're not going to talk to you again before the first preseason game. What are you looking for in getting out of that experience personally?
Yeah, for ourselves as an offense, I want to see execution. I want to see play style. Those are the two things I want to see. We talk about play style a lot. The effort, the physicality, the strain to finish, and then offensively, just can we have a clean operation? Can we line up? Can we execute the offense? Those are the major things I'm looking for in the preseason.
As a follow-up to that, from a play calling perspective, it being your first time, what are you trying to achieve in that game?
I think just really sharpening the process of, the game day logistics for me and for our staff. There's so many different roles on game day that go on behind the scenes. You have your position coaches, obviously, that are managing their group from the sideline, communicating in between series, managing substitutions. But there's so many other elements. You have someone who's giving you, the down and distance from the box, somebody looking for personnel, somebody who's charting things upstairs. So we've mapped all of that out. We have a super detailed plan for what exactly every single person on our staff is doing. I think it'll be through the first and really all the way through the preseason, working through those logistics in real time and making sure it's as sharp as we need it to be come week one.
What are you seeing from some of the young offensive linemen who've gotten the chance with the first team, like Markel and Drew Kendall seems to have gotten like a lot of time on as well?
Yeah, it's a great position group. Obviously we have some, kind of headlined by a lot of veterans who have played in this league for a long time at a high level. But I'm glad you asked because there's a really good group of young linemen that we're really excited about as well. And some of the names you mentioned, Markel, Drew, there's a whole bunch of them, right? And they've all done a really nice job. It's been exciting in this training camp to see them grow as players and see them get more and more opportunities. But it's a group with great players, in the starting lineup who are more veteran. But there's a really good crop of young players as well. That it's been exciting to see their growth so far this camp.
Saquon said that he thinks this offense can open up some things for him that maybe he hasn't been able to show in his career. What do you think this offense can help tap into when it comes to Saquon?
Yeah, well, that's the plan. Saquon, he's a tremendous player. And I think everything we do offensively ultimately is about how do we put all of our players in the best position to succeed. And obviously Saquon's a focal point of our offense that that goes without saying. So we carry that mindset into everything we do, schematically, what we're repping at practice, and really all the different facets of that go hand in hand. As we build the run game, as we build what we're going to do formationally, you want the play-pass game, the keeper game to play off of that. So, all of these things need to marry with one another. We're always trying to maximize our players' skill sets. Saquon, obviously, chief among them. And then all the different things kind of spawn off of that.
The flip side to Cadence as a weapon. How is that? How would you describe that as a part of? You talk about getting the line quickly. How does Cadence go with that, and how's that been implementing that in practice?
Yeah, it's been good. Like you said, Cadence we get to dictate offensively when we snap the ball. So that's kind of the advantage built into the rules for the offense. Now we have to use it properly and master it. There was a couple days early on where we weren't as sharp as we need to be. But we've had incremental growth each day, and we just need to keep pushing for pre-snap perfection. And that's what we talk about, and that will make Cadence the best weapon it can be for us.
In terms of designing the offense with players in mind, in the passing game, do you sort of start with Devontae?
We look at all of them, and like I said, Devontae obviously is a tremendous player. But kind of like I spoke to before, really across every position group, we have a ton of guys with a ton of talent and complementary skill sets. Devontae obviously will be a big part of everything we do, but so will many other players. So it's about all of us. It takes all 11, and that's our mindset going into everything. But certainly Smitty, we're excited to get him involved.
So a lot about.
Did you notice the rise? Why do you think there was such a rise last year in 12 and 13 personnel usage? And then I don't know if you saw in the draft, but a bunch of wide tight ends went really early, second, third round. Feeling on that?
Yeah, I think it probably varies a little bit team to team in terms of their mindset towards it. Tight ends are very versatile pieces of the offense. There's always a little bit of a cat and mouse game in terms of how a defense reacts to more tight ends being on the field. So I think probably league-wide you've seen teams really, placing a premium on that and investing in that position. And certainly our tight end group is one I'm really excited about for all those reasons.
How was Jalen back to being more full field?
He's done a nice job. I mean, if you've seen him, the other day in the indoor, he had a great example of, playing on time. He rips an in cut to Darius, with anticipation, with timing. So he's been growing every day in that regard and has really been handling it well, and we'll keep working with him on it.
You talked a lot about receivers. Elijah Moore specifically getting those added reps. Silver lining, what have you seen from him? Yeah,
he's done a nice job. Again, with all these guys, I think seeing them all out in training camp, it's exciting to see what they can do. It's different than, there's just some barriers, within the OTA setting. But he's off to a great start in training camp. He's done a really nice job. He's a versatile weapon for us. So again, a part of a group that we're really excited about. But he's done a nice job.
Do you see Eli Stallers getting more comfortable? And if so, where do you see that progress?
Absolutely. Eli's off to a really good start. He's a young player we're excited about. kind of speaking about the tight end position earlier, there are so many different things asked of that position specifically. Some of them, maybe a little bit harder to see, to the untrained eye. You're asked to line up in multiple positions. You're asked to, block. You're asked to catch. You're asked to run routes. There's so many different facets to the tight end position. He's done a really nice job with all that. And he's going to keep growing day by day. He's got the right mindset. He studies hard. He's a total professional, and he's off to a good start.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.